Yo, what's happening? Welcome to the BE Ballin YouTube channel. I'm Ashley. This is Cal. We're going to discuss a lot. We're going to talk about the 75 list. We're going to talk about some snubs. We're going to have some what if questions. We're going to do a ranking of the 75. Hope you enjoy the show. Cal, introduce yourself a little bit and let's get it rolling.
Hey Ashley, my
Yeah.
second time joining your show, so I'm greatly appreciative of that and looking forward to some good conversation with you about the top 75 players of all time that the NBA has decided upon, and then also taking a look at um, their list from our perspective and from my own personal side. So, who I believe the top 75 players of all time should be and how I think they should rank amongst one another. Uh, as my other introduction from your other show, I'm from New Berlin. I've grown up in the Milwaukee area, always been a great big Bucks fan and love the NBA and love basketball a ton. So that's really all there is to know about me, honestly. You'll always find me catching a game and studying the game of basketball, researching it in my own spare time, and trying to learn more about the NBA and about the game. So that's really that's really all there is for me.
Alright, thanks, Cal. First, we're going to start with potential snubs. Who do you think were some snubs off the NBA 75 list?
Yeah. So from the NBA's selection for their 75th team, I wrote down a few names that I felt deserved consideration to be on the 75th team. And then ultimately, I circled a few of them who I felt truly stood out from the rest and who really deserved to be in there, to be on the team. So I then decided to add them in on my own time when I did my own personal ranking of the top 75. The first guy who came to mind was Klay Thompson. So I definitely think that he was a snub, and I decided to add him into my personal ranking. Um, then I thought about Dwight Howard. Um, I don't believe I ended up choosing Dwight Howard though to put in my official list. No, I did not. But I had considered him. I considered him. I considered a Celtics player named JoJo White, who was good in the '70s era, and he won a Finals MVP actually. And I did end up putting him in right towards the very end of my official list, actually. So I included him ultimately. I thought about Tracy McGrady. I thought about Tony Parker. Thought about Manu Ginobili. I thought about Dikembe Mutombo. Thought about Alonzo Mourning. Thought about Bernard King, Chris Mullin, Jamal Wilkes, Dennis Johnson, uh, Paul George a little bit, just a little bit. Um, Kind of early to say this, but Nikola Jokic, possibly even. Pau Gasol, Alex English, Joe Dumars, and Gail Goodrich. And out of those guys, ultimately, I decided I did include Joe Dumars. I did include Pau Gasol, and I did include Alex English in my official ranking for my own personal list. So that's kind of how I went about things with everything. What are your thoughts on some of your snubs and who could have been included?
Yeah, some of my snubs, I agree with you. There was a lot of snubs. Tracy McGrady, Klay Thompson, Dwight Howard, I do believe I would pick Klay Thompson, Dwight Howard as my like official ones that was snubbed because I feel like Klay Thompson, he's one of the greatest shooters ever. He's a three-time champ, and he was big in the Clay. I mean, not the Clay. I was gonna say the Warriors dynasty. And then
Hmm.
Dwight Howard, he's like a two-way big. He was an eight-time All-Star, eight-time All-NBA. Leads active players in blocks and rebounds. He did win a championship finally with the Lakers, so I feel like he was definitely snubbed. I did take away some players and added Pau Gasol because I feel like, you know, he won those two championships with Kobe. I believe he won Rookie of the Year too when he was with
I
Memphis.
I think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
he's very skilled, made all NBA like four times. And I just feel like Kobe wouldn't have won without him, and he wouldn't have won without Kobe.
Hmm.
Oh, I did put Manu Ginobili. Manu Ginobili!
Ginobili, Charles Barkley.
Yeah. And I put Tony Parker in, but I put them together
Hmm.
because they were big in the Spurs dynasty. Obviously, Pop and Tim Duncan were, but I feel like, yeah, they don't have big flashy numbers, but I feel like 75 or the 100th anniversary, they were gonna make it. I feel like some retired players should make it too. Um, Obviously, like players like Jokic, like you said, he has an argument too because they put Dame Leonard in there, and I feel like they both haven't achieved championship status, but I feel like they're very skilled, high level players. But yeah, it was very hard. 75 lists is very hard because you want to reward the active players, but you also want to reward players
Hmm.
that are retired, like Grant Hill. So it
Yeah,
was very tough.
it's a tough thing to balance, giving credit to the retired greats and those legends, and also including some of the current players. It's a tough balance. For me with Dwight Howard, what I would say about him is that if I was making a top 100 list of all time, then he would be in there, and he would be like just barely outside of the top 75. Just for me personally, I just couldn't put him in there because while he does have a championship, he wasn't like as big of a main piece at that point of his career. So I mean, to me, the him going to the finals with Orlando carries a lot of weight, and like that was really big. Um, so I definitely give him respect there. The other thing is I feel like his fall off was very sharp and fast. Um, so I don't know, but like I said, for me he just barely missed like my top 75, like just barely, I think. But for sure, 100%, if it's a top 100, or even if it was a top 80 of all time, I think he would have been included for me. It just is tough because I wanted to reward some of the other guys like Pau Gasol, like you mentioned. I wanted to make sure he got in there. Joe Dumars won a Finals MVP, and I feel like he was probably a big part of the culture and everything in Detroit back then with the bad boys and everything. So I wanted to include him in everything. So yeah, it just gets tough when you're trying to add people. For me, like if you have a Finals MVP that you've won and a championship, like that should almost like guarantee you top 75 because it's like you were the best player of a series of winning a championship. So like it doesn't get better than that, you know. So it's like I know there's been a couple. There's been a couple like really random ones, I suppose, that kind of like came out of nowhere, like the Andre Iguodala Finals MVP of 2015. Should that mean that he's a guaranteed Hall of Famer because he has the Finals MVP? I don't know. See that's there are a couple gray areas.
Curry should have won that. I don't.
Uh, yeah,
Curry.
I think so. It was just a strange. In hindsight, it looks really weird. I mean, it was kind of weird at the time, but it's very odd. Like I know they said that Iguodala won the Finals MVP because he like in quote like shut down LeBron or something. But like if you look at LeBron's numbers for the series, he averaged like 38 points or something, and it's like what do you really mean here? Like maybe his percentages were like they were a bit lower than like normal or something, but I think LeBron still had a great series. So that
Yeah,
MVP is very strange to me.
you can't really shut him down. Just hope to contain him, I guess. But it should have went to Curry.
Yeah,
But they wouldn't
it's
have won without Iggy. So and Curry still doesn't have one. So that's one he should have
yeah,
gotten. You
it's
know.
it's it's very weird. But anyways, no, I definitely agree with you adding Pau Gasol because I had him I think he might have been last or second last. No, he's my 75th guy in my actual my own personal ranking. So I had to make sure to throw him in because no, he was an integral piece of those Lakers back to back championships. And like if you play a role on back to back championships, that should carry a lot of weight. I think. Although was um the Heat
Chris
won
Bosh.
the Heat won back to back championships 2012, 2013. Do we consider
Yeah.
Chris Bosh like in this group?
Yeah, it's so tough. He did miss out on the 75 list. That's another one
Yeah,
who
maybe
probably
he's
should
a
have made it.
yeah, he could be a little bit of a snub too. It's really tough. Like doing this assignment gives you a lot of appreciation for the game and for all the greats that have come through and 75 years it's a lot of time. There's there's going to be some amazing legends and some just incredible talents over like that time. So it was a fun activity to research and look into these guys and gives you more appreciation for the game and for everyone who's played it. So
Yeah, it's a lot of history, and 75 years, we haven't even been around for 75 years. But, when the 100 list come out, I think we'll see more of the legends because, back in the black and white days, it's like we weren't really born, so we gotta use YouTube and research, to research those guys. Another snub could be Alonzo Mourning, Vince Carter. It's just too many, too many.
yeah. So you want to move forward then?
Yes, talk about your rankings of your 75 list. Start with 1 through 30.
Oh boy. Okay. So my personal ranking of the top 75 players of all time for the NBA. Number one, I went with Michael Jordan. I know it's not too big of a shocker for people out there, like, whoa, this guy is bold. But the accomplishments, everything he's done. He's MJ. He's his airness. Like I think everybody knows it all. Like just kind of speaks for itself. I don't need to say too much about him and all his achievements and his longevity and what he meant to the game of basketball. Um, Number two, I have LeBron James, number two all time right now. Again, speaks for him, what he's done for basketball and how he's played and what he's been able to do to the game and how he's been able to impact it in so many different ways speaks on its own. Um, Number 3 all time, I have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Um, me being a Bucks fan, I have to have him high, of course. He meant a lot to Milwaukee, and he's the still currently, although his record will be beat at some point. Currently, he is still the all-time scorer, the all-time leading scorer for the NBA. So that has to, mean a lot. And he has the longevity, whereas he was like a 20-time All-Star or something, which is like totally unheard of. Like we're not going to see that often or ever again, really, at all. 4th all time, I have Wilt Chamberlain. 100-point game, averaged 50 points and 25 rebounds one year. He was one of the greatest athletes of professional sports, and his running ability, his strides, his vertical leap, just how he impacted the game, and he was so dominant. Number 5 all time, I have Larry Bird, Celtic legend. Um, Gave us a lot of great finals back in the '80s between the Celtics and the Lakers. Gave us a lot of great memories. Number 6 all time, I have Magic Johnson. Just a very versatile player, could play several different positions. Really good rebounder, amazing passer, great vision, good leader, good leadership, great competitor. Just a lot of great things about him. Number 7 all time, I have Bill Russell, the King of Rings himself. 11 rings, I believe. So he was a great athlete. I know for a lot of those guys who played in the '60s, it's tough because people my age didn't really get to watch him, and there's only like some grainy, like not the greatest footage of like some moments on YouTube and whatnot, but it doesn't really do it justice unless you probably saw him play live growing up. Um, Hard to know his impact, but I know he was an amazing defensive player, and they didn't really keep track of blocks back then, like in the early days. So it's hard to totally know just how crazy like of a defender he was because a lot of it they didn't even track back then. So he's number 7 for me. Number 8 all time, I have Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq Diesel.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I used to buy his shoes growing up.
Funny, yeah, there's a funny story actually, and I promised I wouldn't go off on tangents, but when I was in 3rd grade, I believe second or third grade, so it was the early 2000s for me. This is like 2002 or so. Yeah, I was in 3rd grade in 2002. Like over the summer, I went to like this summer camp, and every day when my mom or my dad would pick me up from summer camp, I would ask them if we could go to stop at the Kmart store by my house in New Berlin on the way home because I was monitoring a pair of Shaq shoes that were on sale at Kmart, and I knew that my birthday was coming up in October once like summer ended. So I was telling my mom this is like what I want for my birthday. Or my mom said, "We can't buy you the shoes right now, but we can get them for your birthday." So I was like eagerly anticipating getting these Shaq shoes. They were a pair of, I remember they were just black and white. They probably don't look like anything too special nowadays if kids saw them, but back in the day, I thought they were super cool. Like back at that time, for some reason, I was just really like enamored with them. And so I would always ask if we could, like, so this would be like, it would be like the month of August or like July or whatever. And I'd be like, I would just want to go to Kmart, and all we would do is I would walk in, go to the shoe aisle, make sure that the Shaq shoes are still available and still being sold, and then we would leave, and that would be it. And finally, like the shoe managers over in like the shoe department were like, "Hey, you've been in here every day this week. When are you going to buy these? Are you going to ever buy a pair?" And then I was like 9 years old, and I had to explain to them, no, my birthday is like coming up. Or I was 8 years old and I was turning 9. That's what it was. I was 8 years old and I was about to turn 9 years old, and I was like, no, we're gonna come back here on my birthday. I'm just making sure these are still in stock. So that's the type of impact that Shaquille O'Neal had back on the youth back from that time. There also was a little more to the story. So at like the summer camp, it's kind of funny, but like at this summer camp, there was an older kid that was older than me. So he was like 2 or 3 years older than me. So he would have been like 11 or 12 at the time. And like we always played kickball out on like out on the playground there for summer camp. And this kid, his name was Mike, and like Michael Jordan, but his name was Mike. And he wore a pair of those Shaq shoes that I like so strongly desired, the black and white Shaq shoes. And every time we played kickball, I swear to you, I've never seen a kid kick a ball as far as this kid would kick a ball. Like it's like he would break world records for the longest home runs kicked in kickball like ever, for like a kid that age. Like he kicked it into the road, into the street, like every single time. And it's crazy to me that I still remember it. So that if I can still remember something from that long ago, then you know it like must have been true, or it must have really been as crazy as what I think. Otherwise, why would it be noteworthy, or why would I still remember it from then, you know? So it's like I was talking about it with my parents the other day, like, remember that? Or I was going through that story, and I'm like, I just couldn't believe it. And I thought to myself, I'm like, there's no way just an average kid can like kick a ball like this. So I'm like, what makes him so special? Or like, why? Like, how can he do this? How is this possible? I thought. And like all the other kids would always pick him first to like be on their team. Like, oh, we want Mike, and like I would be like, I want to be like that. I want to be picked first too, and be like him. So then I thought, what makes him be able to do this? And finally, I just surmised, I'm like, it must be the shoes. It's got to be the shoes that he wears. And that's how he's able to do it. So, needless to say, my birthday came around and I finally did get the pair of Shaq shoes. But the next summer rolled by and I went back to that summer camp. So then I was a little older, or about to turn 10, and we played kickball. And the sad news is that I still couldn't kick it as far as him. So I guess maybe the shoes only worked their magic for Mike and not for me. I don't know. But anyways, so I have Shaq number 8. That was a fun, interesting little story about the marketability of Shaquille O'Neal back from that time. And like that was before I even like knew much about the NBA. But even back then, I didn't really like follow basketball because I was just barely like getting into it. But I still knew who like Shaq was. You know, everybody knew Shaq. Everybody knew Shaq back then, even kids who were unaware of the NBA a little bit like me, or like how I was. So number 8, I have Shaq. Number 9 all time, I have Oscar Robertson, the Big O, triple double machine, kind of. Yep, the Big O, the Big O.
Ew.
um, I feel like he just did a lot for the game, kind of setting forth the precedent of what it means to be a modern day point guard. You know, get rebounds, help out the bigs, help out the big men on the rebounds on the glass. His passing was great. He was a great leader. And then he teamed up with Kareem in Milwaukee, and you know that's how we got our first title. So 50 years later, we're back for more celebration, which is awesome. So we always have to remember those guys, Kareem and Oscar. Um, so number ten all time, I have Hakeem Olajuwon, the Dream Shake. Um, just great player, great player in the post. Really good defensive player, good touch around the basket. Good
Great post
competitor.
moves.
What?
Great post moves.
Great post moves. Yep. Finals MVP. I think he's a two-time champion, a regular season MVP. So sometimes I feel like he gets forgotten a little bit, but I have him in my top 10. Number 11 all time, I have Julius Erving, the doctor, Dr. J. Um, he has those iconic reverse layups and the iconic dunk that he had in the playoffs. I forgot which opponent that was against, but he kind of wound up and did the crazy like windmill thing.
Rock a baby.
Rock, yeah, there you go. Better term. Yeah, you're right. It was called.
Michael Cooper, I think.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, Lakers. Michael Cooper. Yep, the rockabye baby. Good catch there. I knew there was a term for it. Yep. He was a great all around player. Um, Helped Philadelphia win a championship in 1983, I believe. So I have him 11th. 12th all time. Rest in peace. I have Kobe Bryant. Um, Kobe Bryant, 12th all time. Great person, great competitor, great leader. One of the hardest competitors, fiercest competitors in all sports, really. Great drive, good fundamental player. He has the 81 point game. He's had a lot of game winners. He has championships won. Just a lot of great, memorable moments that he left for us. And it's unfortunate that he is no longer with us anymore, but his memory lives on, and his place in uh, all time legacy of basketball will always be there. So, thank you, Kobe. Rest in peace.
Rest
Thank
in
you
peace,
for
Kobe.
everything. And then moving on from him, the 13th best all time, I have another Laker, Jerry West. The logo. He's the only player ever who has won a Finals MVP when he was on the losing team. So he was on the losing side of things, and he won a Finals MVP. So you have to be damn good to be able to pull that off, because that I feel like that's something we're never going to see again. Because like, are we ever really going to see a person who loses in the finals but gets Finals MVP? I doubt it.
Nah, unless somebody just goes crazy.
I suppose, yeah, but it was crazy he was able to do that, and of course he's the logo, so got to give him respect there. Um, 14th best all time, I have Tim Duncan, the big fundamental, Mister Consistent, great leader, great bank shot, good post moves. Part of the Spurs dynasty, his place in basketball is very high and meaningful. 15th all time, I have Moses Malone actually. So that might be slightly higher than some people might maybe put him, but in doing my research, I did come to discover that he is a three-time MVP winner, and I feel like I don't know if you knew that even, but like there's not very many like guys who have won more than two MVPs. Like I know Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Bird, Magic, maybe a couple other guys, but not very many have won more than two, more than two MVPs. So that's why I kind of and he had a long sustained run of like longevity for his career where he was very consistent for quite a while. So I give a lot of credit to longevity. He has a Finals MVP in 1983, so I gave a lot of credit to that. So another guy who is unfortunately not with us anymore. So rest in peace, Big Moses, the chairman of the boards, they called him, I believe. So rest in
That's a
peace,
great
Moses Malone.
nickname.
It is. It is. Um, After Moses, 16th. So 16th all time, I have Stephen Curry right now. He's climbing the ranks. So, I mean, of course, this list that we're doing right now is current and, present to 2021. So, in a couple years, 5 or 10 years, all of this can be able to be changed slightly, depending on
Yeah,
what
sure.
happens, and guys can move up in the rankings. But Stephen Curry revolutionizing the game, and he's about to set the all-time three-point makes record for NBA history soon, so that should be coming up. So
Yeah, like
that'll
eight
be
more.
that'll be a good moment. So when you change the game that much, you have to be remembered and ranked highly, of course. So three time champion. He's just been one of the most consistent um, players that we've been fortunate enough to watch, and he's really entertaining. So Curry, 16th best all time. Number 17th best all time. Next, I have another former Warrior, Kevin Durant. Probably the best shooting forward all time, although Larry Bird, that one's close. They both were great shooting forwards. So hard to totally say there. But Kevin Durant, great competitor, great shooter. Well, I'll use the term great competitor a little loosely because people will say like the snake move and going to join a super team, is that really being a great competitor? But when you look at his time in Oklahoma City, I feel like he checks off the boxes there. But he decided to change his career and do something kind of bold, and like, I might not personally agree with it as a fan, but I respect the individual talent of the player and the greatness that is Kevin Durant. So
And thank you, Katie, for your big foot. Thank you. Thank you.
yes, thank you for being born with larger than average size human feet. We us Bucks fans in Milwaukee, we greatly appreciate that. So thank you. So respect to KD. He's a good guy. He gave the Bucks a lot of credit, when we played them and we beat them last year. So he showed good humbleness and a great amount of respect for us in Milwaukee. So thank you, KD, Slim Reaper. Um, so 18th best all time, I have Charles Barkley. Um, just a great player in his own right for the Sixers and for the Suns, and he led the Suns to the finals, kind of as the lone guy a little bit there. He won an MVP in Phoenix. Unfortunately, he had to face a guy by the name of Michael Jordan in the finals. Otherwise, I think he would be known as a champion very, very, very strongly, more than likely. So, unfortunately, it just the timing, he had to face MJ. So, that kind of stinks for him. But from an individual player's perspective, he was really efficient. He could kind of shoot the three a little bit back then in an era when big guys weren't really asked to do that. So I feel like he was a very multi-leveled player who could just do a variety of everything. Um, so 19th best all time, I have John Havlicek. He's a great legend for the Celtics. He has a Finals MVP. Um, Unfortunately for us Bucks fans, he is the one who beat the Bucks in 1974, I believe. Um, the Bucks lost to the Celtics in Game 7 of the finals. So hey, I'm giving you a lot of respect, John, but I wish you could have just been a little off in that series, just a little bit. Then I could have one more ring to display in my room. But hey, it's all good. You're a legend and you were a great player. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch a lot of those guys, obviously from way back when, but I can find a little footage and some film of them here and there. So, and I believe John Havlicek is also no longer with us. So rest in peace. Rest in peace to you. Um, Number 20 all time, I have Dirk Nowitzki. Great player, Finals MVP, part of one of the best championships won in modern memory in defeating the Big Three in Miami to win his title. He's a regular season MVP as well. I think he's like seventh or eighth all time in scoring for NBA history, so he has to be ranked highly, of course. So respect to Dirk. He had the famous fadeaway. It was a crazy unblockable shot. Like, it was a really neat shot, and he was a great player to watch for a lot of my early days growing up, or for a lot of my time watching basketball. So I enjoyed watching him. 21 all time, I have Kawhi Leonard. Um, Great defensive player, great shooter, good leader, great mid range player. Um, he hates regular seasons, but he loves to he loves to show up in the playoffs and the finals, but he likes to really take it easy on chill mode for the regular season. But hey, he's like known for inventing the load management, stuff. So I'm sure the current players they appreciate him in their own way for that. So he's 21st all time for me. 22nd all time, I have Rick Barry, Finals MVP for the Warriors. He was a great player back then. He's known for being a great free throw shooter and having that like potty shot style, the grandma shot.
Yeah,
Yep,
this.
Ashley knows it. Yep, and I think that's so crazy that he was able to do that like for all that time and be such a great shooter. To me, when I've played basketball and I've done that, and it's never felt comfortable to me. To me,
Hmm.
it's always felt a little strange. So I don't know if I could really ever do that. Um, but it's interesting. I think Rick Barry's son, when he was playing college basketball, Rick Barry tried to get his son to emulate or to do the grandma free throw style, but his son didn't want to do it. Or
Yeah.
yeah, his son Brent Barry. He had two sons, Brent Barry and John Barry, and they both played in the NBA. And neither one of them shot like that. So I don't know. Maybe their dad embarrassed them at their games, their son, by doing that. So they're like, "No, Dad, we're not going to shoot the grandma style." But I don't know. It's interesting. I remember he was talking about that in one of the interviews. But he said like, "Oh, my sons, they shot consistently in the upper 80s or mid 80s percentage wise from the free throw line. So as their dad, I wasn't going to intervene or change them. So I guess that's kind of how that played out." So I have Rick Barry 22nd. 23rd all time, I have Isaiah Thomas for the Pistons, Finals MVP, one of the best point guards. He was really tough, hard nosed defender. He's kind of the catalyst, or well, him and Bill Laimbeer were the catalysts of those bad boy
Oh, yeah.
Piston teams. So got to have him high up there. 24th best all time, I have Karl Malone, the mailman. Um, so I know some people would say, maybe Karl Malone should be higher on my list than Charles Barkley because he has two MVPs. Barkley only has one, and Karl Malone is higher than Barkley on the all-time scoring list in the NBA. I kind of looked at it a little differently, though. I kind of looked at it just a little bit like Karl Malone got to play with John Stockton, another great Hall of Fame point guard, and he got to play with him for like his whole career in Utah. So he always had that to play with. Jeff Hornacek was really good. They had a really good like system and just a great team. Jerry Sloan was a really great coach. Obviously, he's very well known for being high up there in coaching wins. So I feel like Charles Barkley maybe did a little bit more with less. So he didn't quite have the system or the coaching or the surrounding Hall of Fame like talents to play with. So that's a little bit of the reason why I just ranked him slightly higher. But respect to Karl Malone as a player too, though. No, I had to include him somewhat high up. Um, so I have him 24th. Scottie Pippen is my 25th best all time. So obviously he was a big part of the Bulls dynasty teams. The two three-peats, that they had. Great rebounder, great all-around player, great defender. He's got kind of an interesting personality these days. I guess he and Michael Jordan are feuding over the Last Dance and over
Yeah,
like
saw that.
they're they're kind of licking old wounds, I guess, and not quite moving on. So I don't know. That's kind of weird or unfortunate that they don't really get along. But I guess sometimes that happens when you have super teams or you have. It's hard to manage the egos, and over
Yeah,
time, it kind of wears on both guys. So, but he was a legend for the Bulls, and he was a really big, um, really big uh, icon or figure in the '90s and during that whole Bulls dynasty era. So he was a great player. Number 26 all time, I have Kevin Garnett, Defensive Player of the Year winner. He's an MVP winner with the Timberwolves. He's a champion. Great intensity for the game. Very passionate player. Maybe sometimes borderline crazy, but you need some of that. You need some of that though. Um, so respect to KG. Um, when I was younger, I got to sit courtside at a Bucks game actually, and it was Bucks versus Celtics, and I actually got to sit at the scorers table for this game actually. Um, and Kevin Garnett came by, and he before the game started, and he, like the rosin that LeBron uses and like players use to like put on their hands before the game, that like white powder stuff. Garnett came over by where I was sitting by the scorers table to use that powder on his hands. And I was like 16 years old at the time. And I got up from sitting at the scorers table and I said, "You're in Milwaukee now, KG. This is our house. You don't mess with us here." That's why I said I started yelling at him. I got all up in his face and I'm like, "You're in Milwaukee now. This is our house. You're not gonna mess with us here." And I kid you not, he dead like looked at me in the eye, like he looked at me square in the eye, gave me this little stern little like growly back off look kind of thing, or I'm here to mean business too kind of thing. And he put the powder, he put the rosin on his hands, and then he kind of did like a miniature version of what LeBron does, where he like claps his hands together and the rosin makes like a dust cloud. You know what I mean? Like a cloud of dust. And he did that like right in my face with all the powder,
Oh wow.
because I think he was a little pissed off at like what that I was giving him grief. So he's like, I gotta shut this kid up. I gotta make this stop. So he put me in my place there. But the Bucks did end up winning that game. So, and that was the game that Brandon Jennings was talking trash to Kevin Garnett when they were walking in the locker room after the game. So I
Oh
kind
wow.
of wish I could have been there too to join in with Jennings and have fun with Garnett. But he was a great player. He was fun to watch growing up. He was very intense, and yep, he gave us one of the best little moments of all time after the finals with the anything is possible. Number 27, I have Dwyane Wade, 27th best all time. Marquette legend, Miami Heat legend, just a great player. Amazing mid range shot. He was very athletic. He was quick. He was a great transition player in his early days. Could really get up there. Good rebounder for a guard. He was a fun player to watch. I liked Dwyane Wade a lot.
Great
Um,
blocks too.
oh yeah, no, he was. You're right. I'm glad you brought that up because yeah, he was a very good defender for a guard. He got a lot of highlight type blocks. Number 28th all time, I have a former Buck legend, Ray Allen. Um, Unfortunately, things couldn't have gone better in Milwaukee for Ray, and he couldn't. It would have been nice if he could have stayed here, but that's in the past and water under the bridge. And we just have to remember the great times that he did give us while he was here. He gave us a lot of great memories. The 2001 Eastern Conference Finals run, where we matched up against the Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then Allen Iverson and Ray Allen gave us a memorable duel throughout the series. So that was fun. A lot of good memories for that. I was a little too young, so I wasn't totally into basketball really by that point. I was only in first grade, so I didn't really start following basketball till about 2 years later, really. So it was a little too early for me, but I like watching a lot of old videos from that time, and so I can enjoy it that way. So Ray Allen, a revolutionary, great shooter. Then he went on to play with the Sonics and with the Celtics, and then of course later with the Heat. And he has a lot of clutch moments and clutch shots and famous shots over his time. And when he was a younger player with the Bucks, he was really athletic and could really sky and dunk. And a lot of people don't know that about him. They just remember the older version of him being a
Yeah.
shooter. But He was a very versatile type player that brought a lot when he was younger. So he was great for the game of basketball. He really uh, paved the way for Curry and for some of the new age shooters to come through the game, come through the ranks. So respect to Rayon. Thank you for a great career. Um, Number 29th all time, I have John Stockton. So Utah Jazz legend, great point guard, great passer. I think he is still the all-time assist leader for the NBA, or he might be second. I think he's first though. I think he's still first. Um, so
Yeah, Chris Paul is trying to catch him, but I don't think anyone's going to be able to catch him.
yeah, I think it might be an unbreakable record. So John Stockton, I have there at number 29. And here we go, number 30th. The 30th, my Kyle Scheidegger's personal opinion, the 30th best player in NBA history all time. That man, the Greek freak, Ashley was pointing to him. It's Giannis Antetokounmpo, our guy, our Milwaukee hero. I gotta have him. It was a little hard to figure where to rank him and where to put him. I really wanted to be fair, and I think I'm being pretty fair having him here at this spot. I don't think it's too high. I It's possible he could maybe be slightly lower in the rankings, but I don't have him like 20th best all time or in the top 15 or something. So I don't think it's a delusional or biased take or homer take by any means. I think number 30 really is fair for him looking at an all-time accomplishment perspective, being a finals MVP at the age of 26, being a defensive player of the year, having two MVPs won, and who knows what more he has in store for us. He's got such a long career ahead of him. So had to have my guy Giannis on here. So thank you, Giannis, for my championship, for our championship, for Milwaukee. We love you. We can't get enough of you. I hope we can watch you here in Milwaukee for your entire career and that we can just keep building more memories forever with you. And even when you're gone and not playing basketball anymore and you're retired, I hope you can still be around in the community and still be here for us because we love you. We can't get enough of our Greek freak and our Giannis. So especially Ashley because
Can't get enough of your love, baby.
she's tried to propose to Giannis probably at 10 different occasions.
Can't get enough of your love, Giannis. Mm-mm. Can I be honest? Can't get enough of your love, Giannis. Oh
I
yeah.
know when we were in the clutch crew, and a few times that Giannis missed a couple games because he was sick. Ashley here actually volunteered to take him chicken noodle soup uh,
Yeah.
personally to his home. I mean, when the fans love you that much, I mean that really speaks for itself. I think.
I do
I,
anything for you,
I,
Giannis.
I believe Ashley was kidding, but there's a small part of me that wonders maybe she really did take soup to Giannis's house. Who knows? uh,
No,
a,
I didn't.
a, a dream for Ashley would be to wake up, have breakfast with Giannis, and then to go play basketball at the park with Giannis, and then come home and have dinner with Giannis, and then I don't know, play NBA 2K with Giannis or something, and that would be your dream day. I
Yeah,
think,
that would be probably the best day of my life.
and the and the
Spending the day with Giannis.
and the day has to end in a hug too, of
Oh
course.
yes,
That
a
and
long hug.
and then Giannis says, "Ashley, let go. It's been long enough." And Ashley goes, "No, I'll never let go." I'm just all right. So yeah, there we go. Those are my top 30 all time. I had to get Giannis in there right at the end. So I know I ranked all 75, but I think we're okay stopping at Giannis there. some of the noteworthy guys, I'll just kind of look through the end of my list. So after Giannis, I had David Robinson ranked 31st, the Admiral, Spurs legend, great defender, great player. Um, who else noteworthy do I have on here? Dominique Wilkins, 38th all time. I have George Gervin, the Iceman, 42nd all time. I have Dennis Rodman, nicknamed the Worm, number 43 all time. I have Chris Paul ranked 55th. That's a hard word to say. Fifth or hard number to read. 55th all time. I have Russell Westbrook ranked 63rd all time. I have Klay Thompson, who I added, ranked 73rd all time. I have Joe Dumars, who I added to my own list, 71st all time. And I have Pau Gasol making the last spot at spot number 75 all time. So those are kind of the rest of some of the noteworthy guys on my list. Pistol Pete Maravich, I have 58th all time. Another guy that I decided to include that wasn't on the original 75th list is a guy named Alex English. So he's one of the all-time scorers for the NBA too, and I feel like he gets slept on or forgotten that he was good and like how good he was, and he had like a sustained period of longevity. So I felt like he should get some respect and get thrown in there as well. But yeah, so many greats, so many legends. It's tough to include everybody and be fair to everyone. So I gave it my best shot. We gave it our best shot, and it was a fun activity. I really enjoyed it. I like doing it. It really got my mind thinking, and it exposed me to a lot about the history of the game and the history of some of the greatest players in the NBA. So, with that being said, I guess that concludes our our discussion about the 75th uh, team for the NBA, the best 75 of all time.
Oh yeah, you did a great job. Great in depth, very knowledgeable. So next we're gonna enter into the what if segment.
Uh,
Hypotheticals, the what ifs. My first what if question is, what if OKC traded Russell Westbrook instead of James Harden? What would be the outcomes? What would be different? What would be similar?
hmm.
I personally think they all would still get their MVPs, and I think they all would go their separate ways eventually. I think Russell Westbrook still would be the triple double, king that he is after, you know, Oscar. I do think some things might be a little different, like if OKC adds more shooters, maybe KD and Harden can go, to the finals and maybe they could win, you know, a championship. Maybe there will be
Yeah.
less beef with KD and Russell.
Yeah. Hmm.
And, maybe Russell wouldn't have a really big, well, I wouldn't say, well, it's sort of big. Maybe he wouldn't have a bad rep. Cal, you there?
Hey,
Oh, hey.
I think we got like disconnected there.
Oh, no problem. Were you gonna say something
Uh,
about OKC and Russ and Harden?
are we still recording?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah. So, if Russell Westbrook would have been expendable instead of Harden, so then it would have been Harden and Durant in OKC going forward as a younger duo instead of Westbrook and Durant. I don't know. I actually sort of think that Westbrook and Durant fit better than like Harden would have. So I sort of feel like they actually made the right decision to make Harden the expendable one and to have Westbrook and Durant be the duo that they were. Because, I mean, they did go to a finals together, and like Harden was coming off the bench, and it was Westbrook and Durant that were in the starting lineup. So I feel like that actually did work. So I actually think it would have been worse for OKC, and like maybe it would have still led to Durant leaving um, if he and Harden were the duo instead. Um, but yeah, I guess it's kind of really hard to say. A lot of it, I guess, also kind of depends on who their role players are and their bench and stuff. Like if they have the right pieces, it's hard to totally say with just knowing those two guys. I think like I feel like Westbrook was a better, more consistent competitor than James Harden is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he matched Durant better that way. Whereas like Durant has like a consistent like competitor approach, and Westbrook had a consistent competitor approach, and they both like matched each other's energy. And like sometimes when I watch James Harden, and both now and also in the past, I sometimes question that drive or that like competitiveness if that like matches up, with everything else, if that makes sense. So I kind of think OKC made the right move there. Um, but yeah, it's really interesting to think about how it would have been different or what would have happened differently.
Yeah, you never
Uh,
know.
hmm
Okay, the next what if question is what if Bill Walton, Greg Oden, Grant Hill, Tracy McGrady, Yao Ming, Derrick Rose, what if they did not get injured? Brandon Roy, what if they did not get injured? What would have happened in their
oh,
careers?
oh boy.
It's a lot.
Yeah, those are some great names and some interesting scenarios. Talking about injuries and everything. Um, I'll think. I'm gonna think about it from the perspective of this is how I'm gonna approach it with that overarching question. I'm not gonna address each individual player that you had mentioned. I'm gonna think about it in terms of which player at the time of their injury lost out on a potential championship. Like
Ooh.
like who could have won a championship? Like Grant Hill for example, was a really great player in like the 90s for like the Detroit Pistons. But if he never gets hurt, do the Pistons win a championship with him? I'm not so sure about that. I mean, maybe, but like I feel like, and like Brandon Roy was a really great player, but if he doesn't get hurt, do the Portland Trailblazers win a championship? I'm not so sure about that. You know what I mean? So like I'm looking at it from the angle or from the perspective of like which injury hurt the most? Like which injury cost their franchise an opportunity to legitimately win a championship? And to me, I would say that answer is Derrick Rose, because the Chicago Bulls, me being a Bucks fan, like I went to those games during Derrick Rose's MVP year and like during that whole like stretch of time, and you could just see the leadership and the ability and the greatness that Derrick Rose was playing with and the confidence that he had. And all of those pieces I feel like their team at the time fit really well together. They had like Pau Gasol, even though he was a little older. They had Carlos Boozer. They had Mike Dunleavy. They had Joakim Noah. And everybody played like a really great role. And Rose was like the MVP leader of that time. And he was so young. He was only 22, almost 23 or whatever, like at that time. So that's the one that stands out to be the most of the names of that group because the Bulls were legitimate like contenders at that time, and that injury kind of closed their window. That injury closed like the championship opening in the crack in the door that they kind of had during that time. So I think that one, I think the Derrick Rose injury, and then the subsequent injuries that he further would sustain had the greatest or the largest impact on the NBA because it swung the balance of things a little bit. Now I know people could, I guess, look at my answer to that and say, well, the Miami Heat had their super team with Wade, Bosh, and LeBron and Ray Allen, and nobody was like going to beat them or whatever. But that team was older. Like Ray Allen was older, Dwyane Wade was starting to get a little older, and then we know that LeBron like ultimately left. So when the Miami Heat would have eventually dismantled, Derrick Rose would have still only been like 27, 26, 28. You know what I mean? So like that would have been like still during his like real prime, like right then and there. So that could have been an opportunity once the Heat started rebuilding a little bit. That Derrick Rose could have been in his prime still, and the Bulls could have taken that torch from them and been the new king of the conference at that time. So that's the injury I think about the most out of that group. I know, like, not to sound like harsh towards the other guys. I mean, I feel bad that all of them got hurt, or I feel bad that all of their careers got hurt by injuries or changed. I never got to see Bill Walton play, obviously, so I don't know too much about how that affected him as much. Brandon Roy was a great player. I enjoyed watching him back in the day, so it was unfortunate to see him get hurt the way he did and have those battles with injuries that he had to go through. Yao Ming too had some dominant years, but then the foot injury or a couple different foot injuries, I think that he had started to slow him down. So it's unfortunate for all those guys, but I feel like the Derrick Rose injury was the most impactful or had the greatest impact was seen from it, and it changed the landscape and changed a lot of things.
Yeah, that's a great perspective about the championships. I would have to agree, Derrick Rose, he had a lot of great feel for the game, great touch, you
He had an
know.
amazing floater back
Oh,
then.
yeah. It's a little weird floater, but it was going in
So
and
it was
working.
efficient. It was crazy though.
It was like a
Sky
floater, also like a hook shot type thing.
a
It was good.
skydropper.
Yeah. Um,
It was crazy. It was one of the more crazier shots I've ever seen. How he hit so many of those high arcing floaters, and he could do it from anywhere. It was just insane back then.
for sure, for sure. I think maybe Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady, maybe they go farther than they did with the Houston Rockets, but I think the Bulls and Derrick Rose would be the winners. You
Yeah,
know, they haven't had a championship since MJ, but they could have had one with their very own Chicago's very own Derrick Rose.
yeah, that's how I looked at it.
He was MVP. He's actually the youngest MVP ever, still to this day, at
Yeah,
like
he
21
is.
years old.
He is. You are right.
Yeah, man, that concludes our show, the I Be Ballin' show. Thank you, Cal, for being my guest.
Go
You,
Bucks.
you, You a really basketball head, yo. You know, if you ever want to talk basketball, Cal's your guy, cause he
Thank
gets
you.
different. Yeah.
That means a lot to me, Ashley. You're right. I do really care a lot about the NBA and about the history and everything. So I try to stay well up to date with everything and try to do my proper research on things on everything. I appreciate I appreciate you saying that about me. It's always fun to talk basketball with you and to be on your show. So thank you very much.
No problem.
Bucks.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, tell other basketball fans about IB Ballin Show. If you ever want to do an episode with me, just message me, you know. That concludes the show. I be ballin' with
Be
your girl.
balling.
Peace. Thanks, Kyle.
You're welcome.